Welcome back, dear viewers. We're joined here in the studios of Hala Kuwait with our special guest, Hamza Taqi, Master Performance Consultant. And Hamza, it's always a pleasure to have you in the studios of Hala Kuwait.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm so happy to be among you.
Of course, Hamza, today we're going to talk about something different. It's attitude. I think this is one of the most important things when dealing with people or seeing their reaction. So can you tell us more about attitude?
Attitude is everything, actually, because attitude basically it's like a judgmental statement that we bring in our mind, and it could be positive or how we perceive things and how we think and act about certain subject or certain environment or certain people. So usually it's we act in a negative way or in a positive way. Yes.
Of course, so there's a lot of different types of attitude, as you mentioned. There's a positive way and a negative way. So can you tell us more about these types?
Yes. Basically, it depends on our reaction. See, sometimes you and I will have the same incident, but you will react in a different way, I will react in a different way. So some of us react in a negative way, some of us react in a positive way. So when we react high in the positive way, that's a positive attitude. And if we are reacting in a negative way, very high, that's a really negative. So that's the two extreme. And then we have the indifference, where we don't care, well, no reaction, no high, no negative or positive reaction, it's indifference. And then we can have like a dual, like negative reaction at the same time positive reaction.
So how is that negative and at the same time positive?
Yeah, because we give it a lot of negative reaction, and then we think about it a bit and we see the other side of it.
So we switch.
Yes, because everything is you know, no matter how bad it is, there is some element of learning in it. So if you change the way you look at it, the whole thing changes.
Of course, it's always like look at the bright side. There's always negative things throughout life, but try to look at the positive side of things.
There's always two sides to everything.
Yes, that is very true. Yeah. And I think attitude is very important. So can you tell us more why that important? Because sometimes I think because of your attitude, the person in front of you might get the wrong idea.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
I think this is very important.
There are some very smart and intelligent people. They don't make it because of their attitude. And there are some people that we know they are mediocre, they're like basic, but because they have the right attitude, they are successful and they reach places. So when we talk about the importance of attitude, it's really because our attitude with the feeling that we have, we create some sort of behavior. So we behave in a certain way, and when we behave, our behavior gives us the result or the outcome that we want or don't want in life. So basically it becomes, maybe when we behave in a certain way, it becomes a habit, and a habit makes our personality. So what we think of, how we act and how we feel, it creates our personality. And you see people with different personality, and that's originally, you know, if you don't like the personality that the person has, it's because of their attitude towards certain things. Some people, they say, you know, now during Ramadan, they say, oh, some invitation comes and say, oh, after Futur, I cannot go. That's the attitude. He will not be able to go. But another person will have the attitude, yeah, let me go and meet people and see my friends and my relatives and my loved ones. And they go there and they enjoy themselves. Even that person who had a negative attitude towards going to that gathering, when they go, when they change their act, when they go, their attitude changes because they see people and they see their friends and everybody smiling and hugs and kisses, they feel good.
Of course, I think that's a really great point. I think a lot of people sometimes when they get invited to gatherings and things with family members, they usually are very busy or tired, and sometimes they even decline the invitation. But as soon as they just push through and go to the family gathering, they have a different attitude, being with family and even seeing your nieces. I think that's important.
Absolutely,
and it brings joy.
Absolutely, and you can do this for any other things in life.
Of
Same
course.
thing, yeah.
And I think you can actually, as you mentioned, a person's attitude can really reflect themselves. So you can actually understand a person by their attitude.
Actually, the attitude will not show because it's there in their mind. But somehow, when they behave with that attitude, then you will find out they have a bad attitude or they have a good attitude according to their behavior. So we can observe the behavior, but the behavior comes after that having the attitude. Yeah.
Of course, and as you mentioned, sometimes people, they have a negative attitude. So when we're dealing with someone with a negative attitude, how do we deal with them? I think this is something very important because you don't want to come off too harsh or too soft. So how do you deal with someone with a negative attitude?
Again, it became a habit, and it's a way of thinking. So they think in a negative way. They've always, and sometimes they had a bad experience, okay? So they relate to that experience and they think about it and they don't want to take a step forward, and they remain negative because of that one incident that they have. And they don't know that life is full of incident, and we go and try something else once you fail, or learn from it and do it again so you perfect it. Some people, they have the thought of the attitude that everything they do must be perfect. No, sometimes imperfection makes a person unique. It's full of character. So don't think that nobody can be perfect. So do whatever you can and embrace your limitation and use your strength to achieve what you want with a good attitude. Then you will have a good life, hopefully.
Of course, and I think sometimes people, they have an attitude problem, because you mentioned sometimes people they're not negative, they're not positive, but they're just like stuck in between. They're very hard to communicate or have a reaction for a certain things. So how do you deal with someone like that?
Basically, I would say, I would make them think of the positive that they have. We have so many grateful things that's happening to us. It's enough that we are still breathing and experiencing this life. So having the right attitude by looking at your blessing, by journaling the things good. Even if you do simple stuff on the day, if you write them down, you feel your accomplishment. That makes you, changes the way you think. And when you change the way you think, your attitude changes. And then hopefully you go into the right track. It becomes a habit, and then it becomes our behavior, and then it becomes a habit, and it becomes a personality. We see people in that manner.
Of course, and I think this is an amazing technique to actually write the things down in order to have an attitude for it, to be grateful for it, for all the small things in life, because actually the small things are very important and they make a huge difference in our lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is an experiment they've done for children, like maybe 7 and 8 years old, or maybe less, 5 or 6 years old, and they gave them a marshmallow. And children, especially in America, they love marshmallow. So they gave them one piece of marshmallow, and the instructor told them, if you wait until I come back without touching it, without eating it, I will give you the second one. And most of the kids, they couldn't wait for 5 minutes.
To do.
Yeah, it's very hard. So they had to, grab it or smell it or take a piece of it, or somebody just grabbed it and ate it. The people who didn't eat it, who were patient to get the second one, they check them out after 30 years. They check their life. They say they are more successful and they're more, powerful and strong in terms of, going through life challenges and stuff than those who couldn't wait and couldn't delay their gratification for a while and to get more,
Is it something that is implemented in the person itself, like part of the personality, or is it something that you can achieve with time? Because you mentioned it's based on children, and after 30 years, they discovered that that person actually achieved more. So
yes,
could you learn this skill?
Of course, it's a learned
because
skill.
Sometimes it can be very hard. There's a lot of temptations, and your example is with a marshmallow, and
yes.
sometimes throughout life
yes.
there's a lot of temptations.
Yes,
so
yes.
it can be very hard to
Absolutely.
actually
Sometimes
do that.
you want to go to the Algamat or you want to go to the apple. Which one is healthier? The Algamat is more tempting, it's more sweet, but the apple is healthier. So in that manner, you kind of, you say, no, for my health, for the circumstances of my health, I will go for,
The apple.
the apple because it's healthier. But, it's very hard, it's very tough, it's very hard. Attitude can be developed in the first few years when we're born, observing our relatives, observing our parents, and we tend to have certain attitude because, sometimes you see people, you're driving in the car, and all of a sudden the car in front of you throws a bag of chips out because her daughter or his son finished
The
the
chips, of course.
and they would throw it, and then you say, why would they have that attitude, keeping their car clean
But the
but
street's
keep the
dirty.
street dirty?
Yes.
It's an attitude, and that kid in that car will learn from their parents. They will do the same thing.
Of course.
So these things we have to be really conscious about, and we have to be aware, because we can, pass it on to generation and generation to come.
Of course, I think that's very important what you mentioned. I think attitude and even skills, a lot of things that we learn throughout the years are usually from the environment that we're in.
Exactly. Sometimes it's actually three elements. We call them the ABC again. Affective, which talks about the emotions and the feeling, and the B is for the behavioral, where we take action. Sometimes you are not in a good attitude, not in a good mood, but you do certain action, like going and run for a bit, or taking a cold shower, or doing something, crazy.
Out of the ordinary,
Out
something
of-
different.
It will change your attitude, definitely. So that's the idea of, changing stuff or doing something that, make you awake and make you aware of what's going on, and really, really living the present. Not to think too much about the future, not to worry, because, take it slowly, day by day, life will be okay.
Of course, and Hamza, of course, we have a lot of questions for you, and we always keep our dear viewers entertained with their different information every time. So I think one of the most important tips when it comes to our audience, what could you give them about attitude?
Well, basically, I would say, really, really, you have to observe your thoughts. We think like 60,000 thoughts per day, and most of them are repeated or negative. So really, be a master of your thought, and not let any thought dwell and take you over, and then you behave in a certain way based on a thought, which might not be real, maybe false assumption. So really, really be observant, live the moment, take a deep breath, count your blessing. You will see life in a different way. And we always say, if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at changes. So change your mind, things will change for the better.
Of course, I completely agree with you. I think changing your mindset is very important.
Absolutely.
Because it changes the way you see things, and everything around you actually really changes for the better.
True.
Of course. Thank you so much, Hamza, for your time, and it's always a pleasure to have you here in the studios.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, dear viewers, you had with us Hamza Taghi, Master Performance Consultant. Stay tuned after this report.